Over the last century, over 100 million boys have taken the Scout Oath. The oath to become men of character through their participation in the Boy Scouts of America. Teddy Roosevelt, himself a local Scout leader, once said, "More and more I have grown to believe in the Boy Scout movement. I regard it as one of the movement's most full of promise for the future here in America." Decades later, his words have proven true. 4 of our presidents, 181 NASA astronauts, 36% of the West Point cadets, 22% of the Air Force Academy cadets, 189 members of the current Congress, and 18 current state governors have all been shaped by their participation in Boy Scouts. The Scouts don't just earn merit badges for things like camping and hiking. In 2012, Boy Scouts donated $5.5 billion worth of volunteer time across America, doing things like litter cleanup, improving public parks, helping charities upgrade their facilities, food collection, and conservation projects. Over the decades, 114 million young men have put on a Boy Scout uniform. Each one has sworn to live by the Scout Oath in law. They have pledged to be brave, reverent, and morally straight. Given the Scouts' commitment to God, country, and morality, it is not hard to see why churches have played a key role in Scouting. Over 70% of Scout troops are chartered by faith-based organizations. But that relationship is at risk, as is the future of one of the last non-religious institutions that has not yielded to political correctness. Under pressure from corporate elites and homosexual activists, the leadership of the Boy Scouts is proposing a change regarding open homosexuality in the Scouts. It's a change that would introduce what Scouts themselves call open and avowed homosexuality into Scouting. It would change Boy Scouts forever. The impact of such a change would not be limited to the Boy Scouts of America. It will dramatically alter the culture and moral landscape of America. We want to thank you for joining us in this special Sunday night nationwide simulcast, Stand with Scouts Sunday. Now, live from the Family Research Council studios in Washington, D.C., is the president of Family Research Council, Tony Perkins.
The Scouts' strong moral code is one of the reasons that 70% of Scout troops are chartered by faith-based organizations. One of the many Bible-believing churches that charter Scouts is Calvary Chapel, Rio Rancho in New Mexico. And joining me now on the set is Pastor Robert Hall, himself a military veteran and founder of Troop 356. Pastor Hall, welcome to the program. Thank you for that message earlier tonight.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Oh, let me go right into this issue. We just heard some of the Scouts talking about the moral code, and if the Scouts depart from that, that obviously is a link to the church. What happens to the churches if the Scouts abandon that moral code?
Well, the problem is that we as churches are setting a moral code in people's lives. As head, we're the conscience of the nation. And we have all of our Scout volunteers sign our statement of faith. And it's within that environment, we're all in agreement of what we believe, that we're training our boys and teaching them to honor God and to be, as you say, morally straight. And that would be incompatible with this change in Scouting. We could not continue our relationship with them.
You're a veteran. I mentioned that the military, one of the arguments that the BSA is using is that the military repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Obviously, I think that's a problem for the military. The evidence is beginning to mount that it is a problem for the military. But that be as it may, we're talking about children here as opposed to those over the age of 18. Are you concerned about what this could interject into Scouting?
Well, you know yourself that any mentoring environment needs to have a universally accepted code of ethics and morals and conduct. Without that overarching code, if you introduce the confusion of a change in direction of your moral code based simply on sexual preference, that sends a very confusing message to the boys that are being mentored, and just a complete change of values.
Let me ask you to put that pastor hat back on there. Not that you took it off, but let me ask you this. You know, many of these boys today especially are coming from broken homes. They're looking for that male role model. And I think you know as a pastor, they can be very vulnerable.
And this is one of the joys of my life. And there's so many boys that don't have a father in their life full time. And you know, young men need affection, and they need physical contact with older men. And at times I have my scouts will run up and give me a hug if they did something well. They want that affirmation. And I just cannot imagine introducing this kind of an issue into that environment. It's going to take away the options we have and the wonderful relationships we have with our scouts if you introduce homosexuality into that environment. That whole thing will be lost eventually.
Have you spoken to other pastors that are involved in scouting? And if so, what have they said about the future of scouting and their participation if the scouts change this policy?
The pastors that I've talked to are very unhappy with even them thinking about changing this policy, and they will not continue their relationship with Boy Scouts of America if they change this policy.
Well, Pastor Hall, thanks so much for being here. And again, thank you for your message to get us started this evening.
Thank you for what you do for us, Tony. God bless.
Thanks, Pastor.
I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.